A Game Boy Advance game coming to Switch? Could this pave the way for more handheld hybrid crossovers? What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force. Gabe is here, and a Game Boy Advance game is heading to Switch. Tonight, Nap's team announced on Twitter that Gakido Kintaro's Revenge is coming soon on Nintendo Switch. This is a side-scrolling beat-em-up from the Game Boy Advance era, and while this probably is not a sign of any virtual console hopes and dreams, it is interesting, and it may open up an opportunity for the portable nature of the Switch to invite more Game Boy Advance era titles to the console.
Yeah, a 2002 release, a very obscure release. Like, why this? Like, that, that's the biggest question. Why is Gakido Kintaro's Revenge coming to Nintendo Switch? And, I mean, there could be a number of reasons why, like Zach alluded to. I don't think that this means, like, hey, virtual console's coming in, Gakido is the first big... Like, no, I don't think that's happening, obviously. But, to see such an old game make its way to the Switch, quote-unquote, soon, like, why? Right?
Yeah, and Nintendo Life had an article on it. It said they're not sure if this is a straight port or a remaster, but they hypothesized that maybe this opens sort of the floodgate for a wave of retro releases. And given the fact that the Switch can be a handheld console, and you're not dealing with double screens or 3D, you could theoretically, whether through Virtual Console or just individually, bring a bunch of Game Boy Advance games to the eShop cheaply. And the fact that the eShop has seen so much success with indie titles and things like SteamWorld Dig 2 are seeing, exponentially higher sales on Switch than other platforms, maybe this is a, let's be honest, a cash grab for some of these studios to, hey, we can port our Game Boy Advance title to the Switch, maybe get some money out of it, and fill out that library with some retro releases.
I think the best way that we can make sense of this is a little bit of the Neo Geo games, the ones that come to the Switch for like $8, and they have a ton of them now. I feel like maybe this is what's happening. Do we get a separate like label for these, the way we have those with the like Neo Geo stuff, and maybe even with like the arcade classics? Do you think maybe on the eShop these get labeled as like, hey, Game Boy Advance classics or something?
I really don't think so, because it doesn't seem, in the future potentially, but this does not seem like any sort of concerted effort whatsoever. Again, the obscurity of the title, the obscurity of the developer, I think if anything, it shows the interest of, like I said, some of these studios or even publishers to bring games that can kind of easily, quickly port, that would work, that would, be almost like, it would be interesting if the eShop kind of had like a handheld section or like a portable section, like games kind of, I don't want to compare it to mobile, because obviously the Game Boy Advance had plenty of titles that were far deeper and far more awesome, frankly. Things like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and all of the, the Mario ports.
Advance Wars. There's a ton of stuff. Yeah,
Golden Sun, things that have plenty of depth. But it would be nice to have sort of a subsection where you do have these sort of quote-unquote retro Game Boy Advance titles that are specifically, targeted towards handheld on-the-go play. They could be played docked as well. But to answer your question, I don't think that this will have a separate label unless Nintendo decides to do something Virtual Console-wise. And at this point, they've left us completely in the dark. So I don't feel comfortable making any predictions regarding that.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I don't think that this means anything. I think, one obscure company is putting one obscure game on the Nintendo Switch because it's very popular. That's my hypothesis. I believe that's yours as well. But
I would love to see, though, more Game Boy Advance games come. Obviously there's licensing. Obviously there's what Nintendo wants to do. But if we could get things like Golden Sun and Advance Wars, like that would be so cool and such a nice throwback. And again, the idea that I think a lot of us had was that eventually the Switch would sort of be this hub for everything Nintendo, and it doesn't seem like Nintendo is too interested in doing that yet. They could, right? There's still time, obviously, but I'd love to see this eventually become this fantastic hub that merges the eras of brand new things like Metroid Prime 4 and also classics like Gakido Kintaro's Revenge.
Classic, yeah. By the way, I don't think any of us ever played the game.
No, we didn't. If you played this game, let us know in the comments below, and let us know what you think about Game Boy Advance games possibly appearing on Switch. Is that something you'd like? You want to play some Minish Cap up on your Switch? That would be a fun fit. But yeah, let us know if you'd be interested, or if you feel like, hey, not really going to matter We've got so many eShop titles and excellent indies and AAA titles that we don't need that. But at the right price, I think GBA on Switch could be a cool fit. Let us know your take in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest developments from the Switch and games like Gakito Kintaro's Revenge. We'll keep you posted. You'll keep us commenting, and we will all have a wonderful, wonderful Switchmas. Until that time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. For myself and Gabe, Switch Force out. Switch Force